All right, welcome everyone. This is part of the series Leveraging AI that's brought to you by Stifel. And for this one, we're going to talk about using AI for market research. And as I mentioned, this was brought to you by Stifel Venture Banking, and Jonathan Moe, I believe, will join us a little bit later to talk about Stifel. And we can just come back to this later when he joins, because he represents Stifel, so he could tell you a lot more about what they do, what they offer, and how they can help you and whatnot. All right, a little bit about me. I've been doing uh, coaching for startups for the past 9 years. I've been coaching for a while, so I've coached like over 200 plus startups up to recently, and also I've been doing a lot more of this AI enablement. That's Jonathan. Yeah, let me finish the intro and I'll give it to you, Jonathan. And been working with Stifel for a little bit now. This is, I believe, our third quarter together doing this webinar series. And so far, people have been liking this. Productivity increase has been pretty good. And with that, I'll go back to one slide so Jonathan can tell us a little bit about Stifel Venture Banking.
Yeah, certainly. Danny, if we resend, right, to
Yep.
everyone. So in case we haven't, okay. Yeah. So look, thanks for joining us. Danny's been doing this with us, as you mentioned, for a while. We also, yeah. So first, I'll start with us. So obviously we're Stifel. So I'm a VP here in the venture banking group. Stifel obviously is one of the largest banks in the country. We have almost $500 billion on deposit. We have a very large investment banking arm. We have even larger wealth management arm, which are both pretty famous on the street. But we here in the venture banking unit, where it's less than 100 people, we have offices in San Francisco. That's our biggest office. New York, our second largest. We also have people in Boston, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, LA, Seattle. So, and of course, Stifel is headquartered, parent in St. Louis, Missouri. So, in terms of like what we do, so we are a very specialized unit of the bank. We particularly serve as the commercial bank for the startup ecosystem. So startup companies, early stage for the most part, and the investors who invest in them. So these are VC firms generally. So we are the bank for the startups, and we are the bank for the VC firms. And when I say we're the bank, literally, so we take deposits from them, we pay yield, we give them treasury services, plug into their software, this kind of thing. We do provide a certain amount of advisory, not in the investment banking sense, but in the sense of helping them connect into our network, right? Because as a venture bank, like we sit very centrally inside the ecosystem, we touch kind of everything, we see everyone. And so as a result, we do function. My team in particular, myself and my manager, focus very heavily on this kind of ecosystem management. Now, in terms of like other products, so we do give debt. So we loan to early stage startups. We generally these are start companies that have raised a certain amount of money from funds already. So typically think you've raised like $1 million from investors, you're looking for venture debt. That's kind of like I think the earliest we probably would come in. Venture debt varies. It can be $1 million, it could be $50 million. And all kinds of different varieties of the debt therein. We have an entire credit team here that just does that all day. In terms of the funds, we provide them with loans as well. So venture capital funds do borrow. They're highly specialized, the call lines that they use. So we do have a special unit that does that. We have across all of that, we have thousands of clients, obviously between startups and funds. Um, and then I guess the last thing I'll say is we do hold a lot of events as well. So this is part of that, this webinar series. We hold a lot of in-person events for our investors and clients. We hold a lot of events for prospective clients as well. So a lot of that is founders. And a lot of our events focus on connecting founders with investors, getting them in the same room. I think currently, this is no secret, but currently the space is under quite a bit of pressure. So it is quite difficult right now if you're an early stage company to raise money. It was never easy to be fair. So when people say it's hard, I mean, it's not like this was ever an easy thing, but certainly right now, there is definitely a more aggressive kind of bent to this space. That said, as I'm sure you've also seen, many companies are raising enormous sums, particularly in AI. So it's just produced a kind of an asymmetric type of curve inside the space. And so that's something that we see a lot and are kind of working through with our clients, whether they're investors or startups. So yeah, that's that.
And to reach you, they can email
Oh
moj
yeah.
at
So unfortunately I don't have access to the chat. So if you want to email me though, it's very easy. It's MOJ. So my last name plus the first letter of my first name. So MOJ at stifelbank.com. Um, yeah, if you're a founder, if you're a startup, interested in learning more about how we might be able to work with you, if you need a bank account, certainly very easy. Feel free to email me.
Yep, I just dropped that in the chat as well, so they
Oh,
can
thank
look
you.
at that. Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, I'm going to skip my
Cheers.
introduction because I've done that. Okay, so by the end of this workshop, you will master at least one simple prompt formula that works for any research, even though we're going to be focusing on the market research. This could apply to others, and hopefully you can pick up the techniques for this as well, using AI tools to speed up your research, make it better, make it faster. And we'll have live examples that you can try even tomorrow or today, actually, and understand how to verify and impose AI research results, improve our AI result. It's because the problem with a lot of these things that we do with generative AI more and more is becoming how do we make sure that it's not giving us slop, right? How do we evaluate it as they generate these things more and more like faster and faster, seem smarter and smarter on the surface level? Is it actually better? Okay, so I'm gonna skip the agenda quick. Okay, so the one prompt formula that you need, this has been good to me, giving me good result as in something that's closer to what I want most of the time. So give the AI a role, for example, as a dot dot dot. In this case, in the good example, as a business analyst, and then we give it a task, which is to research the remote work software market and give me, this is the format, give me 5 key trends with data to back it up. Even better, if we add even more context, more direction for our AI colleague here is as a business analyst here, research the remote work software market and then we give it a more focused constraint in 2024 to 2025, or in the past 6 months, or in the past 3 months, whatever the time frame might be. And then give me the top 5 key trends affecting companies with 50 to 500 employees. And then also include specific data points and site sources. This forces the AI engine, especially the ones that are not specialized in research, to ground their finding, their output based on real data, and then show you the proof. So this minimizes hallucination, right? So we're going to use Perplexity to start with, but Perplexity is actually, the reason why we're using it is because it's designed to always show the sources, set sources for research. But then we'll see the other tools, like we're going to use Gemini, ChatGPT, and Claude. Some of them may not cite the sources as well as Perplexity. So when should we use AI and when not to? This becomes a very basic thing for most people, but still good to review. When we're getting started on a new topic, it's great to use AI to just explore really quickly the area. Um, when you need info that's probably public, if it's not public, then it's probably not gonna be available because of training data. Only rely on publicly available information. When time is tight and what you need is something that's good enough. If you need something that's perfect, generative AI is not good for this. Another one that is synthesizing lots of information. It's really good at that. A lot of data, a lot of sources, synthesize it into something that you could use really quickly to distill information. It's really good at that. Don't use AI when you need proprietary company data to actually uh, make something useful out of it, because it's most likely it won't be available. And if it's for it's legal or compliance research and you need exact sources, AI is probably not a good uh, tool to use to rely on solely. You may want to use it to start doing your research, but then for the exact sources, you may need to actually use something else that's more focused on the industry. For very recent events. So this is something that with the grounding could be okay with AI, but if it's super new, recent, most likely without the grounding, it's not going to be reliable because it's going to rely on its training data. The last one is confidential information involved. So this is uh, similar to the first one, which is proprietary company data. If there's confidential information involved, that as a source, you may not want to use that, especially if if you're using the cloud provider like Claude or ChatGPT, where you have to send it to their cloud to process, and you don't want your confidential information to be exposed to these companies, you probably don't want to use them. Best approach, start with AI. Again, as a starting point, it's very fast. You can get from 0 to, in most cases, to 60 to 70% really fast in research particularly. And then dig deeper when it matters most, when you need to get a very reliable information that you need to make decision of. Like, for example, you need to figure out how to define your persona, your pricing, and all these things. You should actually use primary research to validate what you discover, what you found with AI. 3 types of research questions. From the very surface level, what's happening, the information. And then we go deeper, the middle one, why does this matter, the analysis. And then what should I do, the recommendation, the right one, right? So we start with the information, what's happening, what are the main trends in particular industry, what are the new regulations that affect these industries, what happened. And then from there, you need to know, does it really affect me? Is it relevant to me, right? And that's when you move it to the why does it matter side. And with this, these are the different things that you could ask. You can straight up ask, like, how does this affect my company? If the AI already knows about your company, right? You can also compare this option A versus option B for specific criteria, and using, seeing that the trend is going that way, is it going to be beneficial, for example? What are the pros and cons of a strategy given the trend that you see, given the new regulations? And then obviously the next thing is to act on it. Based on these trends or based on these findings, what opportunities should my company consider? So this is great to use the thinking model also to ask how to take advantage of certain trends, certain opportunity. And also another thing is there anything that I missed? Do I need to consider something else? So based on its training, it's looked at a lot of data, a lot of patterns for different industry. Knowing your industry, the AI could also recommend things to consider that you might have forgotten or might have overlooked, right? What are the biggest risks we should prepare for? This is one of the great thing this AI could actually help us with. Now, with this though, the one thing to note is that given the training is based on historical data, right? Historical information. If the trend is completely new, like this whole AI thing, for example, certain jobs are being redefined. The AI may be able to give you some prediction, but it's based on backward looking data, right? So it doesn't have the capacity to actually imagine what could really happen. So something to keep in mind that it can only look back. It doesn't know how to imagine the future. Okay, two simple rules for better results. One, always ask what's missing, like what I mentioned earlier. You got a plan, or you figure out like, well, how does this affect me? A good question to ask is, what am I missing here? For example, what time period does this cover? Should I cover longer? For example, if you're trying to back test a strategy, or you're trying to see a pattern and you may want longer time period, right? What are the sources that AI isn't seeing, right? That's the kind of thing that you need to consider. Like, for example, does it also take into account user-generated content? Or it's only looking at the publicly available data that doesn't really take into account the voice of the customers? Or does it? What would change my conclusion? Is there anything that could change your conclusion? No. These are things that you could actually directly ask the AI. What time period does this cover? Should I consider other time periods? Or especially when you're using the smarter models like Opus or GPT 5.6, or while we still have it, Fable from Anthropic, you could ask these questions, right? To help you think this and identify potential holes in what you're doing. Now, this number two is verify your big three, the most important number in your analysis. That's number one. The key trend you're betting on. If this is true, then you could bet on this, your strategy on this. The main risk you're worried about. So number one is the key numbers to focus on. And then number two is the key trend so that you can see the opportunity that you could take advantage of. Number three, the potential risk that you need to actually mitigate. Okay, so now we're going to get into the demo. As I mentioned, I'm going to use Perplexity. I'm going to just start a new one. So this is Perplexity. I'm using Perplexity's browser called Comet, which is a fork of Chrome. But if you go to Perplexity, you're going to see something very similar to this, which is just perplexity.ai. Okay, with this, I'm going to just make this a bit smaller so we can switch between the windows easily. Okay, so the task here is in our demo is to research corporate wellness market for companies with 100 to 500 employees. And with every research task that we do, we need to start with the research question. In this case, should we consider the corporate wellness software market? Is this the market we want to get into, right? Particularly this 100 to 500 employees. So this is the prompt. I'm going to drop this in the chat as well so you can follow along if you want to. I'm going to break this down again. As a business analyst, so that's the role, as I mentioned earlier with the prompting format. This is the role we give it. So this makes the AI engine focus on, okay, this is my role. So what are the relevant information? So in the neural network, it actually focus on certain path. Research the corporate wellness software market for companies with this to this, 100 to 500 employees. And then this is the thing that makes the output useful for me. Give me market size, growth rate, top three competitors, and biggest trend driving growth. And then include recent data and site sources, right? With Perplexity, the last part may not be as important, but I'm going to just include it anyways. Now, with Perplexity, you don't need to worry too much about the model. This is their own model, especially if you're not paying like me. So I used to pay the Pro, then you can use these different things. In my opinion, they're not, the result don't vary that much. You don't need to worry about the computer use because we're not using the computer, we're just using the search. I'm gonna close this. And for search, if you want for data that you need to really rely on, the deep research is actually worth it because it's essentially looking at more data and it's analyzing them more carefully. So the sources would be like, I think in the hundreds, potentially with the deep research. So that's worth it to use. Okay, I'm gonna run this and see what we get. Now what it just did, completed two steps, searching the web. So it did this, well, corporate wellness, da da da, 2025, 2026, biggest trend, and 7 more. So it did lots of searches in that short period of time, right? So it went to all these data. So we could actually go to any of these and verify ourselves, like this one, Lucintel, corporate wellness market report, trends forecast, competitive analysis to 2023. You know, this align with what we're looking for, right? And then the second one is it gathered the recent market and competitive information. Again, it did a lot of searches. Then based on that, then it concludes this. Normally, I would go to the end first and just get the conclusion because trend driving growth, the shift towards digital first personalized and data-driven wellness platform enabled by hybrid model. Okay. The biggest single trend is digital first personalized wellness platform, integrate mental health and use data analytics. Okay. Another thing that's really useful with Perplexity is these follow-up questions. So the ones with the computer, this is essentially giving Perplexity the task to do this, right? For example, in this one, compare 15 top wellness platforms, and this one, corporate wellness dashboard, create that. And you can also follow up with these questions. What key feature distinguishes platform mid-sized firms, and so on and so forth. Another thing that's useful here is that if you feel like this is something that you want to share, you could share the link to this answer to your colleagues. A lot of times for these kind of things, this could be useful. And here's the citation. So you could see where this comes from, each of these, right? So mental health and burnout prevention comes from this one and this one. And just like +1. So you could see if this is something that you could rely on, or you could say use different sources. You could also tell them to do that. Just gonna just scan through this real quick. News within a roughly 11.6 billion global market 2025 and projected to reach 25.4 billion by 2035, about 10% CAGR. Okay. All right. So that is to get this, and then I could just also ask it this question, right? Based on the findings, should we consider getting into this market? Yeah. So it's saying entering the corporate wellness software market is potentially attractive, but only if you pursue a sharp niche, data AI layer, verticalized offering, rather than a generic Me Too platform. And it's telling me about this, like the competitive intensity and barriers, opportunities in this segment, and where a new entrant can credibly win. So this is very useful, right? So where is the gap? It's even giving me the strategic pros and cons, and then recommendation. intelligence product or in this different region. Okay, so what to verify? Does the number come from credible source, right? So that's why we need to make sure that when we go up here, we look at this, can we trust this number? The fact that it's using more than one source most likely is more trustworthy than based on one source only. So that's another shortcut, but if it's something that you need to rely on, definitely verify the source. Because sometimes something like this, the second one is from LinkedIn. So the LinkedIn one could actually cite the same source from the other one, but it's looking at it as a different source. So something to look out for. The second one, do those competitors actually focus on this, right? So on the 100 to 500 employee segment, the top. So that's something that we also need to verify. We could just ask it to double check. That's another thing we could do. Is the wellness trend backed up by other industry sources? So we have to look at the sources. Are they credible sources, obviously? Are there recent wellness regulations we should know about? So this part we didn't get, so I'm going to ask it. I'm going to say recent relevant. Everyone said to enter this industry in this market. And then it gives you that. So you need to, if you're particularly addressing targeting a particular region or country, you want to, your SAM is that, then you may want to just focus on that, for example, in the US, right, or in Southeast Asia, in Europe. That's a really quick way to just get a direction from here. And again, I'm gonna look at this and see the price for the US. There are these two sources. I'm just curious to open law and workplace. I'm curious about this one. Okay, seems credible. Legal Lines of America. This this law firm is part of that. Yeah. All right. So moving on. So these are things that we may want to ask. As I shown you, you could just quickly ask it with these questions. Use this as a checklist potentially. Is there anything that I should be asking, right? Now, based on this, we want to now analyze we want to get an understanding of the competitive landscape. Now that we understand the corporate wellness market, who are our main competitors? It's already started to show us that previously, but I want us to get them listed and deeper, right? So we wanted to analyze the competitive landscape for corporate wellness software for companies with 100 to 500 employees. And now we're giving it a different role. We're giving it the role of product strategist. As a product strategist, analyze the top 5 corporate wellness software platforms for companies that are not the same thing that we've been targeting. And we wanted to compare key features, pricing models, target customer segments, and recent customer reviews. And then we ask it to bring it together and give us the answer to this question. What positioning gap should a new player fill in this market? So it kind of gave us that little bit, but we wanted to, again, go deeper, look at the data more, and this time around as a product strategist and give us a positioning strategy. I'm gonna drop this in the chat as well if you want to follow along. So I'm continuing on the same thread so that it could have the content, the findings from earlier conversation as its context. I'm curious to see the sources that it uses for this. Well, about personal pricing model. Okay, there's the compare the matrix, positioning gaps a new player could fill, and the strategic takeaways. All these are the sources. I like how it also highlights the key point here, but a focused AI-enabled compliance native solution that, and then bullet points. Solves for this size firm that are underserved by both lo-fi and hi-fi enterprise tools. Leverage your strength in AI agents with orchestration, competitive intelligence, and so on. Now, what we got and what we still need. We got feature comparison across platforms. So we go up here, we have the feature comparison, key strengths, the features, pricing models. And then if they're targeting on this market segment, common review, we have the general pricing, high level positioning differences, right? We still need customer satisfaction scores. So we have this kind of, but we probably want to go deeper on that. Recent product updates, win-loss reasons from sales teams, because obviously we don't have their data on this. So AI gives us the landscape view. We still need to do we still need the ground level intelligence. We still need to do more research, most likely some primary research to make sure that we understand what's really going on the street level, even though the big direction is already there from the AI research, right? Now, number three, this is where we're going to use other tools. We're going to use other AI engines to help us double check the work. For example, we could use ChatGPT to check the perplexity work. What we're going to do is we're going to simply, one way is we could give it the same prompt as what we gave perplexity, right? And just see if the output is about the same. So it's not going to be exactly the same, obviously, but is it pointing in the same direction? And then we can also use a new chat, use the same tool and use a new chat and ask the same question and see if it's giving us the same direction. Because every single time this generative AI tool give us answers, it would be different because it's probabilistic machine. But it should be based on the same direction, I mean the same data, and therefore it should give us the same direction. But let's try ChatGPT, and for fun, I'm also gonna use Gemini and Claude. Why not? I'm gonna start with business analyst, da da da. So this is the first one that we gave it, right? Same thing with Gemini. I'm gonna give it the same prompt, and ChatGPT also the same prompt. They all have the web search tool now. Back in the day, some of them don't have that, only rely on the training data, but now they all have it and they all can do the grounding. That's why this include recent data and site sources is forcing them to do that. Like here with ChatGPT, it also uses very similar convention with showing the sources, and you can like see how many of them, and you can quickly verify. Seems like quite similar, not as verbose as Perplexity, but similar output. Okay, so global corporate wellness size 553 billion. This is 55 to 6, wait, 0.55 and to 0.60 billion. Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So this is the one that we're targeting, but then it says that the 55 billion is the the bigger one, the corporate wellness services. Well, this is the software. Now, this only gives us the 53 billion, the big one, the corporate wellness services, not the software. So something that's interesting there, right? The difference in the granularity of the data. The compounded annual growth rate, the CAGR, here is 4.47, but I think this is for the big one, the services, while this one says 6 to 7. Well, if we go back to the Perplexity, we're going to go back to the very top to check the numbers. Yep, so this is closer to what ChatGPT found for the software. So this checks out, right? Like where was it? This one. So 0.55 billion, which is this one. So around there. So that's about the same. And then 6 to 7 growth rate. Yeah, 6.5 makes sense. And the sources is LinkedIn here. Well, this is also probably the same source, honestly. But this one also has other sources. So this gives me more confidence. So let's go to Claude now. Let's go to market size. So it's quite different. This one is saying that it's 900 million to 1 billion, while the other one says actually it's only 500 million, in which case then normally we would go towards the more conventional number, the more conservative number, and like the lower number, right? And in this case, the growth rate is also around between 6 to 12. That's really big. And the market research, yeah. So for something like this is where we need to start looking at, okay, if they're diverging, which source could we actually rely on? And also another thing is how many sources agree to one another. And then we make the decision that way. But directionally, if it's around the same number, it's in the same neighborhood, then we can actually trust it. Okay, so I'm just, for the sake of time, I'm going to give it the second prompt that we gave Perplexity for the competitive analysis and the strategy, just this one. So you can copy from this thing. By the way, if you want to edit this and because you feel like, oh, I need to add more details, you can just quickly do that, right? So I'm gonna give it to the same three and see what they say. Okay, so first of all, I want to make sure that we're looking at the same list of competitors. That's the first one that I want. So Wearable, personify, core health. Wearable, personify. This one doesn't have core health, but it has Gojo, Limeade, same that. Okay, so at least like the first wearable personify, they agree on these two. So I definitely will look at them. This one, wearable also. Move Spring, I think we saw that. This one is new. Personify is back again. Bright Breaks is different. How about this? Well Hub, Volleyball, we saw Wellable, we see again. Virgin Pulse is new. Limeade, we see earlier. So this way we could discover, okay, who are the competitors, right? And as you can see, the different engines see different things. So this could help us identify the gaps. And you can add more like Grok, you can add like, I don't know, the other AI engines that you use. I think those are the big ones. Another one is again, like if we ask the same question, like on Perplexity, I'm gonna do that really quickly. Gonna do the same thing here. Let's see if we get the same answer. Okay, yeah, it's the same. Again, the same source. Okay, that's good. And then I'm gonna ask the same question here for the competitors and see what we get. Okay, so it's explaining the growth rate here, the difference between the two, which is which could be helpful to just get a better picture. Okay, let's see. Okay, now Virgin Pulse is in the is included in the list. Limeade also included now. So as you can see, even the same engine, if you ask it multiple times, it would give you sometimes different results. And that's one way to make sure your result is robust. To just ask it multiple times. But ideally, I would combine both. I would check its work by repeatedly asking the same question, even using the same prompt, and also use the same prompt using other engines as well to verify its work. Okay, so we did that. And then just the step two is to look for red flags using our common sense as human beings. Do the wellness market numbers seem too good, too bad? Are there obvious wellness trends missing? Especially if you're considering this, most likely you know what's going on in the market. Is there anything that you feel is missing that is not identified by the AI engine, right? Does anything contradict what you know about corporate health benefits? This is based on your experience again, leaning on the human in the loop to make sure that the quality of the output is grounded on what you actually know also. And that is it that I wanted to show you what we covered today, a simple prompt formula that works for any research. So giving it a role, a task, the format, and more definition of what you want on the output. Normally that would give you good output that you could use, like what we saw earlier, when AI research works and when it doesn't. Live market research and competitive analysis examples, which we just did with these different engines, and how to verify them. And also practical templates you can use already, which is there. Any questions? Very quiet in here. You can just unmute if you have a question, or you can type it in the chat. No? Going once, twice. All right. Jonathan, wanna wrap this up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, we will have additional webinars. You can find them on our Luma page. We also have a workshop. So when is that, Danny? Oh, that's next
Next
Monday, it looks
Monday.
like.
Yep.
Wait, that's a workshop?
Yes, so this one will be, yeah, we normally do this in person, but this coming Monday it will be online because I'm traveling.
Okay.
But it
Yeah,
will
no,
be
no
a
worries.
workshop. It's a longer one. It's 1.5 hours, and it will be
Okay.
more hands-on. In this one, you'll actually be doing it with me, along with me. We're going to do this together, step by step. We're gonna build something. So basically, a little bit of
Okay.
vibe coding in there.
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. So yeah, if you guys are interested, that'll be on Monday, 11 Eastern. But we also do hold in-person workshops here in New York City. If you're here in Midtown or yeah, kind of Mad Square area. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, if you guys are interested, definitely sign up for our other sessions on the Luma page. And yeah, look forward to potentially seeing you guys again.
Hold on, Jonathan. I think we have one question
Oh
there
yeah.
before we
Yeah.
go. So Eugene asked, could you repeat your thoughts regarding pros and cons regarding various different AI technologies for this purpose? Yeah, so you definitely want to use the technology like the AI engine that could do the web search so that it could quickly do the research like what we saw and verify uh, the finding based on real source and cite the source. The ones that I showed you earlier, ChatGPT, Grok, and I mean, not Grok, Claude, and Gemini. Grok also does this, and Perplexity, they all have this capability. So they could do that. Now, that said, Perplexity is particularly initially it was designed for research purposes. That's why, as part of this, also under the hood, there is the system instruction, the way it should work as an AI engine. By default, it should do the grounding and it should do this. They have additional, I guess, secret sauce and instruction for the AI to do research better than, because that's the special purpose of it compared to other engines. And even though it's using, as you can see here, some of the model, you could use the same model, right? You could use the Gemini model, you could use the GPT model or the Claude model. The output will be different because they have that secret sauce. For research, Perplexity, in my opinion, is still the best. Um, but yeah, so that's system instruction, the system prompt, whatever we want to call it. That's under the hood is defining how this AI should work is normally what makes one engine better than another based on the purpose. Like, for example, with Cursor is designed for the purpose of building for vibe coding now, right? Or agentic work for developing software. So the system prompt for that is focused on that even though it's using also the same models, the same brain, it will be better at those tasks compared to research. It can still do research if you want to give Cursor the job to do research. It's like you're giving your software developer the task to research, right? It's been trained on that. It's been like given like the awareness of the best practices to do this, to do that for software development, but you're giving it a research job. It can still do it. It's still smart, but they won't be as good as somebody who is trained to be a researcher. So these different tools are specialized on these different purposes, as opposed, like for example, Perplexity is specialized on this, while ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude are more general purpose. Therefore, we need to give it more focus, like SA, dot, 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 and a lot of times we need to define more of that. With Perplexity, it's already somewhat predefined that it's a researcher, and then we can also even give it more to layer that. I hope that answered the question. You still there, Eugene?
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. All right. With that, if no one else has any question, then thank you for joining us and see you next time.
Thanks, Danny.
All right.
Thanks
Take
very much, Danny.